Welcome everybody to Go Local Live. I'm Josh Fenton, CEO and co-founder. It is Wednesday. It's a little gloomy inside, but it's much more interesting over here. We've got Robert Rutely from Mott Chace, Sotheby's International. He's sort of the guru of realtors in this marketplace. Mr. Rutely, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for letting me be here.
Robert, it's a somewhat of a confusing economic time for people. We have a record number of job vacancies. I think it's somewhere around 11 million, but we also have inflation pushing up over 8%. We have concerns now being voiced about recession, which I don't understand if you've got 11 million jobs that are vacant. You've got wages growing, but not as fast as inflation. You've got interest rates creeping up, but you have no house inventory, and a house goes on the market, certainly in this region, and it's bought up pretty darn quick. You've been at this for a good long time, more than a decade as a realtor, and been in the industry as an investor for even longer. Have you ever seen anything like this?
You know, not quite like this, Josh. We're in a global economy, so there are a lot of global initiatives and global things that are happening that affects our marketplace. But I still think one of the biggest things that has happened was the pandemic over the past 2 years. It really made people really think about how their life would be changed, and I think they're really struggling to get back to whatever normal might be for them. We've also got one of the more millennials and Gen Z and Gen X buyers out there than ever before, and you just don't have the inventory. So that's the main reason houses are being bought up pretty quickly.
Yeah, let's bring it closer. So interest rates are up, I understand, over 5%, according to smart people like you. And there's minimal inventory, record low in February. We don't have all the March numbers yet, but it appears to be, while houses are coming on for the spring selling season, that they're substantially lower than pre-pandemic times. Talk about that yin and yang of interest rates usually go up, buyers leave the market. In this case, buyers are still there.
I think we've been really spoiled by interest rates over the past decade, to be honest, since around 2008. 4 is not bad. 5 is still not bad. But recently we've had interest rates in the high 2s and even low 3s. So when we say it's creeping up to high 4s and low 5s, it's scary when you hear that, because every point that goes up, a buyer's losing about 10% of the value that they could offer on a home if they're like a normal American and has to worry about their debt to income ratio. So that changes the amount and the availability of homes that they can purchase. But still at 5%, even at 6%, it's still historically low interest rates. I don't think we're going to see any huge changes in the influx of buyers and the demand until we get much higher than that.
Robert, talk about inventory. This is the selling season. This is spring. This is the hottest market generally of the year, although all the traditional things have somewhat changed over the past couple of years. But traditionally, the spring season is the big selling season. Where are we with inventory? What are you seeing? What's looking positive, if anything, and what are the areas that you have concerns about?
Well, you'll be excited to know that our wonderful marketing team here at Mott Chace was able to give me some March numbers pretty quickly this morning. So units for sale statewide versus last year to this year is down 33.5%. So that's more than 1,000 homes that are not available this year that were available last year. And statewide, we had increased the price because of that demand and low supply. It went from $332,000 for a single-family home to $385,000. So
wait, just walk us through that number again for March a year ago.
2021 to March 22, this last month. A single-family home moved from $332,000 as an average sale to $385,000.
Amazing.
Yeah.
For those people that you're working with who are buyers, what is it you're telling them as they, listen, there's a lot of demand for buyers right now, obviously, houses get turned in a day, a week. I mean, it's not. This is a short-term game. What are you telling them of how they can still find the house that they want?
Well, there's two parts to this. You can purchase at any interest rate, and you will always have that availability in the future to refinance at a lower interest rate. So, in part of it, interest rate doesn't even matter. But if you're working with a debt to income ratio and you don't have unlimited funds, like most Americans, that does affect your buying power. So what I'm telling people is that there will be somewhat of a market correction, probably the end of this year into next year. I think that correction is going to look like a more of a seasonal market with less competition. Instead of 20 offers on a home, maybe there are 5 or 6. Um, so it's going to be a little bit different. This correction doesn't mean that there's going to be a crash, in my opinion, or that prices are going to go any lower. I think prices are growing to where they need to be. And unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of homes that are selling in the $1 million range. Well, unfortunately for people who can't afford $1 million. And in fact, $1 million home now, a sale that sells for $1 million, is pretty unremarkable. It's pretty average for a lot of communities, especially waterfront communities, seaside communities, and even the east side of Providence.
Yeah, it's just remarkable. I think I'm going to carve out my garage and see what kind of price I can get for it. Talk a little bit about what you're seeing. Is there anything, for those who are buying, is there anything positive? Are we starting to see the big influx of houses going on the market? Are sellers realizing, oh, this interest rate issue maybe is getting more complicated, and this is the time, this might be the last greatest time to sell, and sell now?
I wish that I could make people realize that we're probably at the top of the market right now. And if you have to sell a home, or if you want to sell a home, or if you ever thought about selling your home, now is the time to do it. I wish I could convince people of that, but and I've been saying that for quite a while. Sell your home, sell your home. We need the inventory. But now is a point where I think that prices will begin to stabilize a little bit more because there'll be less competition as interest rates and inflation rise.
Yeah, we had a story about a week ago about the Dallas Bank of the Federal Reserve. They were warning that if you look at the data, we're in for a correction in the housing market. They saw it across the country, some areas of the country being significantly overheated and, in their minds, overpriced. Historically, in Rhode Island, the east sides of Providence, the Newports, the Narragansetts, when there is a market correction, don't get hit particularly hard.
No, I think there's going to always be value in those places. These are the hot neighborhoods where everybody wants to live, and when they can't afford or there's too much competition, they move to tertiary neighborhoods. Those people that are in those other neighborhoods, tertiary neighborhoods, are going to move back to Newport, Narragansett, the east side of Providence. So there will always be demand in those places. Even during the last market crash, College Hill and Wayland Square really held their own for the most part.
Do you see any, for buyers, go back to buyers for a minute, do you see any bright spots? Do you see any relief for them? Or is this going to be the spring, April, May into June of, open houses with 30, 40, 50 people lined up for 2 days and, 10, 15, 20 offers?
I think all of those buyers who have really been considering waiving inspections or waiving other contingencies can relax a little bit, knowing that in the near future, you're going to have a lot more opportunities that protect you as a buyer.
And, I'll jump back again to sellers. It seems like this is the best height of the market based on some of these warning signals. Multiple national and global banks saying that better than odds that we're headed towards a recession. Mark Zanni from Moody's was on. He said it's a 1 in 3 chance of going into a recession. Interest rates going up, et cetera. All these competing complex economic factors. When you're having conversations with people who are considering selling, what seems to be the holdup issue? Is it the lack of inventory for them to move into as they downsize or size in these life changes?
I think people see that they have a lot of value in their house they can take out by selling it and moving someplace else, and they're willing to do that. There's just no inventory for them to move somewhere. So if they're going to make $500,000 on the sale of the house that they've been living in for 10, 12 years, uh, uh, they're also going to spend that extra $500,000 on a new home that they're moving to. So it really has to be something that is beyond making that money by selling a home, and really a lifestyle or change or something else that's important to them.
And those home storage units, you're not allowed to live in those for these in-between times. Is that correct? You can't roll the grill in and the extra sofa and just take up habitat in those storage facilities?
I think that's really a zoning question for the city of Providence.
Last word to you. What encouragement do you give to those who are trying to buy? They may have been trying to buy for the last 2.5, 3 years, literally through this pandemic. Now they used to have 5 kids. Now they have 9 children. How do they keep their head up and keep focused on sort of the eye on the prize?
Be absolutely sure what you want. Write down a list of things that are important to you, things that you absolutely don't want, and stick to that list. Don't get caught up in the hullabaloo and the excitement, but really focus on what you need and what you want, and when it comes up, pounce.
Robert Rutely from Mott Chace, always a pleasure talking with you, the rare aficionado who knows both the nitty-gritty, but also the major trends of the real estate industry right now. Always appreciate you taking the time. For everybody else, we've got a lot of things going on. There's a lot of news today in Rhode Island. Stay tuned for much more. It is not a high day on the Giorsi factor, so it's a good day to get some reading done. Hopefully this weekend we'll be back to some better weather. Stay tuned for much more on GoLocal. Everybody stay safe. If you haven't gotten that booster shot, do it. Numbers may be creeping up. We had an interview with the Department of Health yesterday. Might see some increases over the next few weeks. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe.